So again, on the topic of non-conflict, which is one of my favorite topics. I found a quote from Ajahn Chah in what is called the Core Wat Manual from Wat Pananachato, Wat Papam. Core Wat is the monastery etiquette or the house rules of a particular monastery. So it's not Vinaya, it's just the particular monastery's house rules. Like, for example, your mother says, don't walk inside the house with your shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you don't do that. And so this manual is just tells you how to live within that monastery. So there's a number of rules, but again, they don't come from the Buddha per se. The book, the Core Wat or Vinaya is usually used as a weapon. To catch people out, to prove that you're right.
To argue
other people,
point,
to argue. It's not used in the right way. So this book begins with this Ajahn Chah quote, and it says, "It's not right to watch others with a fault-finding mind. This won't help you. This won't help your practice at all. If you feel annoyed, observe that annoyance in your heart. If other people's sila is not perfect, or they do not behave like good monks, good people, it is not your job to be judgmental. You won't become wise by watching and blaming others. The Vinaya is a tool to assist you in developing samadhi. It is not a weapon for finding fault or judging who's good or who's bad. No one can practice for you, and you can't practice for anyone else. So be mindful of your own behavior. This is the path of practice."
That's like the Buddhist type of Bible bashing.
Yeah.
But no, that's the point. So why is the fault finding? Why is it bad?
Well,
in regard to anything, not specifically Vinaya or something, but even what somebody says something, and they're wrong. They might be completely wrong in what they said. But why is you having a mind of looking for faults? Why is that wrong for you?
Because it's got nothing to do with you, and the important part is, where are you wrong?
Yeah.
Where's your fault?
Well,
what is your mind?
Well, okay, but why is looking for faults? Why is that a fault? See, if you're looking for fault, you're already at fault.
Yeah. Well, you think you aren't at fault.
That's kind of implicit, yeah.
So you think you're right.
But why is it? Why another reason? Why would it be also fault? Because it's like what we addressed in the previous. Well, yes, exactly. Yeah, it comes from that framework, a predetermined framework of your mind. You're looking for faults means you already have a reason to look for faults. Means it doesn't matter what that person says. You're already looking for faults. You cannot look for faults on account of understanding what they said. You can agree or disagree with what they said because you understood it. But the mind of looking for faults actually puts whatever they said secondary and prioritize their its own irrational approach of I'm looking for faults now, which means whatever it's going to be said, it's going to be seen against the context of finding faults. That's what Buddha said. That's one of the main reasons that people will be unable to develop the right view even when they come across the right teaching. They have the mind of fault finding, and that's why they will not understand that which they would have otherwise understood and become a sotapanna. So that doesn't mean you blanket accept everything that's said. That doesn't mean you lose your discriminative ability and discernment, but means you don't give in to the attitude of looking for faults, which is, as I said, independent of the content that's being described or
So
conveyed to you.
Beforehand.
Pretty much, yeah.
There is a fault, and I'm going to point it out.
You might have an inclination to look for fault, and simply ignoring that inclination means that's your mind state. In the same sense, you might have an inclination to resist to how you feel, resist towards the disagreeable, and if you ignore that, means you're giving in to ill will. So you need to develop enough self-awareness to be able to not maintain the mind of looking for faults, even amidst things that you find disagreeable. But then, if that disagreeability is not rooted in you looking for faults, but it's rooted in you understanding the meaning and understanding the contradiction in the meaning and understanding why that meaning is wrong, means that's absolutely fine. You can now dismiss that thing because you understood it was wrong. So not just like, and you will know that, like if you just hear something said and you say that's wrong, but you have no argument as to why it's wrong, and you start to like scrape left and right irrationally to justify why that's wrong, means you're already looking for faults and you already chosen to not to accept that, even if you don't know really what it means.
Yeah.
So if you're accepting something, you want to know why you're accepting it, why it makes sense to you. Why do you find this such and such statement or teaching agreeable? And say, if you're not accepting it, you want to know why you're not accepting it. What is wrong with it? So if you say, oh, this contradicts such and such, you need to know why and how, to what extent. Not just throw that, oh, this is just contradiction, but have no means of supporting it. Or have extremely rational means of supporting it. It all points out that, oh, you already decided you don't want to accept this, now you just need to justify why. That would be to your own demerit, basically. Because you might come across things that are very accurate, very right, and would have freed you from suffering. But because of your fault-finding mind, as I would have said, you would have not actually led there and gained the understanding of it, because you dismissed it beforehand. And again, if you're honest with yourself, you would ask, I don't know what the truth is, but which is more likely? If I were to hear the truth, which is more likely? To find it agreeable or disagreeable? Just off the top of your head, what would be the first answer?
Yeah, it's not going to be what I...
It's of course going to be against my whole life, against the whole nature of being and existence. Dhamma goes against the stream, against the grain. How's that going to be felt if you always went with the grain? So you realize already you can, even as a putujana, who is not, not a monk, not practicing fully committedly, you can actually still not forsake a good line of reasoning. Oh, so it's more likely to be upsetting. So now you find things that upset you, like teachings that make you displeased. Now understand, why is that? Is it because, because the way he speaks? Well, that's not an argument. That's not a valid argument. Oh, I'll dismiss what that person says because of how they said it. No, that's an excuse. That's not an argument. If you want to dismiss what this person said, or if you want to accept what that person said, you need to understand why, and not just say, oh, because it displeases me or pleases me respectively. That's irrational basis for your understanding. Thus, there is no understanding. So if you accept something, you want to know why. Why does this make sense to me? If you don't want to accept it, you want to know why this doesn't make sense to me. And then if you find the answer why it doesn't make sense to you, then question that answer. See whether that answer makes sense. Or you just jumped on the answer because it pleased you. Because it offered you like a leeway to step back and ignore what you heard and it was displeasing to you. And that's how you already start going against the grain. Against the grain of accepting things at the face value. Which is a definition of human existence, pretty much.
Just to go back to the Ajahn Chah quotes a little bit. If another person's sila is not perfect, or they do not behave like good monks,
well, your idea of a good monk is?
It's not your problem, basically.
Yeah.
It's not your job to be judgmental. It's not your problem.
And as I said previously, that doesn't mean you will be blind to the behavior. But if you dislike it, you will maybe start looking into why you're disliking it, as opposed to, no, we must police that. Especially when there's nothing wrong, because that's the whole point of that kovat, is it's not the Vinaya. So it's nothing immoral in regard to not walking with shoes in your house.
Yeah, it's not immoral.
There's nothing immoral about it. That's why good kovat is the kovat that has a practical application basis. bad kovat is just whimsical sort of kovat made by the people in the position of power over junior ones. But that's beside the point. The point is to recognize whether you agree with the kovat or not, and why is that? Why would you mind that? Even if somebody done it for wrong reasons, simply to entertain their sense of control over others, they create kovat rules to see if everybody will obey. Why do you have a problem obeying that? Is it because you're conceited? Why is it your problem? So in the same sense, it's not your problem to find fault in others. In the same sense, it's not your problem to be affected by others' faults.
Or people finding fault in you.
Or people finding... Why does that upset me? People finding fault in me. That's what people do. You cannot possibly control that. As the Buddha said, the power of the fools, of ignorant minds, is to complain. They complain if you speak fast. They complain if you speak too low, too slow. Some people will. Some people say, I don't like because he speaks too loud. Some people say, I don't like because he speaks too quiet, not loud enough. There's always going to be something that people will complain about. Why is that my problem? Other people's complaints. And if you already have that, that doesn't mean I don't care what other people say. It means I don't make a problem out of it, which means I will not lose the context in regard to what they're saying. And then you might, oh yeah, maybe I am speaking too loud or too fast. What's the purpose of my speaking? Oh, it's to convey the message. So which is a better way to convey the message and fulfill the purpose of my speaking? Or maybe I should speak slowly. Or, oh, it doesn't really matter how I speak. People can slow it down. Okay, then I won't deal with it because it's not my problem. But if you are affected by other people's complaints, you will not have that context and that perspective to review your own behavior and see, oh, actually, no, I was simply careless about it. It's not a big deal to me, but it's a big deal to everybody else. So I could change that. I don't mind. I'm not conceited. I must hold it. That's like in the suttas when like vast majority of people complain about something completely insignificant. It has nothing to do with practice or anything. And then the Buddha said, okay, you stop doing it. And you're like, why did the Buddha give in to these complaints? You should draw a line. Like, well, you could draw a line, but that will make people complain more. Which means now you have to deal with that. And if you deal with that, you won't be able to deal with your own practice and seclusion and being left alone. So practically speaking, if you meet the ignorant requirement of the fools that complained, you'll be left alone.
Yeah.
And if you still have work to do, you want to be left alone. If you don't have a work to do, if you completed your work in terms of Dhamma, yeah, deal with complaints, talk back, whatever you want to do. But if you still recognize there is work to be done, you will have to be careful to protect the environment that will support that work. So it's not like you don't care about people complaining means I'll dismiss everybody or I'll fight back. It simply means I won't lose perspective on what's important to me.
Yeah.
That's it. And by the way, that applies to lay people as well, not just monks. I mean, that's like one of the main characteristics in the world. What will other people say about me? And you live your whole life governed by it. And now you have people who kind of try to dismiss that and say, I don't care what others say, and then go to the other extreme. Well, no, you can try and deny caring what others say. Either way, you hear what others say, which means it affects you to some extent. So it's not about complying blindly, nor resisting blindly. It's about not being affected in the first place, and then it doesn't matter whether you comply or you have a reason for resisting. Like sometimes the Buddha had reasons and resisted. The vast majority of people say monks should be doing this. He said no. It wasn't always you go along with the majority. It's determined by the context at the time. When all those, when there was a group of those monks who were kind of living independence of that whole area, and it was mentioned in the suttas, and they were like householders in robes. They would go and spend time with lay people, with their homes, talking about their lay affairs, laughing with them, joking with them, associating with them. Say, oh, come here, offer this, offer that. Like just the whole, like living basically like a kind of full-on part of that lay society. Right. And then the monk who was actually bent on practicing the Dhamma came to the village and went Pindapat, and he wasn't looking at people, he wasn't talking to them, he wasn't smiling at them. And all this province got upset, saying, look at this conceited monk. Our monks, they talk to us, they're friendly with us, they listen to our advice, they, what we say they should do, they do along with it. But this monk doesn't even look at us. Like he's conceited, he's this, he's that. And they refuse to give him the food. And you would think now, if you were to follow majority rule, okay, so in that province we all must behave like this. Well, no. What the Buddha did, he said to Sariputta, collect a greater amount of monks more than the monks that lived there, and go there and behave like that monk that was quiet. And when this vast majority of monks came behaving quietly, not looking, not smiling, not chatting with them, then they realized, oh crap, actually, it was the monks that we know they're the ones behaving differently. This is how the monks should behave. So the Buddha corrected the lay people's expectations and views, which in a way was nothing unreasonable. It's nothing unreasonable for you to say thank you if I give you food. Why is that? Or to smile and say, oh, thank you, I really appreciate it. Why is that wrong? But this monk wouldn't even look at me. So you realize even seemingly reasonable stuff, it's not reasonable if it's rooted in unreasonable expectations and views, basically craving and greed and aversion. Pleases me, displeases me. And the Buddha had greater context whereby this type of behavior is more conducive for the future generations as well. Because yes, those monks might have been able to handle associating with lay people, but those monks, they will be monks who will come later on, who will not be able to handle it, but will see that as the way of doing things, associating, yeah, let's get together, do festivals together, spend time together, sit in the groups together, go for walks together, but they will not be able to handle it. And then the Dhamma will erode as a result of it. But if you're able to handle it, then you're also able to not do it as well. So if those monks were able to handle lay people and surrounded by lay people, which some of them were, means they're also then able to handle not engaging with lay people.
With the greatest perspective in
exactly.
mind.
Either way, they would be unaffected. In other words, sometimes you circumstantially can be involved with lay people. It's the motivation behind that's going to determine it. And you will know whether motivation is good or bad, wholesome or unwholesome, if you review it and you see that, what if I'm not involved? Would I be affected or emotionally?
Okay.
And then you realize yes means, okay, so I'm not impartial to this. I'm not indifferent to this. If you truly don't mind, then it's fine. Like the Venerable Channa, who was an Arahant. And when Sariputta and Mahamoggallana went to see him, and they questioned him whether he's an Arahant, he said he is, but they didn't believe him. They went to the Buddha and said, oh, by the way, he died, he committed, he used the knife because he was sick and so on. What was his destination? And the Buddha said, well, didn't he say he's an Arahant? And they said, well, he did say he was an Arahant, but he was also associating with bad families. Like there wasn't a good reputation going around. And the Buddha said, well, yes, but one is not blameworthy by associating with bad families, one is blameworthy by leaving this body and taking up another, as in not being an Arahant, that's why you're blameworthy. And then he tells Sariputta and Mahamoggallana, who are Arahants themselves, he said, I reassure you, Venerable Channa used that knife blamelessly. He died blamelessly. He died an Arahant. He was an Arahant before he died. So you realize then, okay, so although externally he was associating with these bad families, which would have not set a good example for other monks who were not be able to handle it, there was probably some practical or circumstantial reason that resulted in that. It wasn't rooted in his greed, aversion, delusion that made him then forsake the context and engage with bad families. Doesn't mean he was doing bad stuff. So the motivation, the intention behind the action determines it. You cannot judge it simply because, oh look, the way he walks means he's that. The way he holds the cup means he's ignorant. Or he chooses to do this, that means he's such and such. No, that's you projecting your own meaning into it. And to that extent means you're unaware of your own meaning behind it.